guys! So I've been using my Hobonichi 5-year techo since the beginning of January, and I wanted to show you how it's been working out for me. I haven't seen hardly any setups of the 5-year techos on YouTube, and I don't know if that means that not many people are using them or just that somehow they're not showing up in reviews. So I have got mine in a custom cork cover from Cadenetta Notebooks on Etsy. I'll leave her shop link down below. And I'm using it with a Lamy Studio fountain pen in Racing Green in medium. So I got this 5-year techo to use as a combination gratitude journal and record of highlights of the day, and it's just perfect for that because it's got a small amount of space, but it's just enough that you can write a few highlights. And I really like the fact that it doesn't have any extras. So it's got these calendars, one for each year, which I don't use, and then it goes straight into the first set of daily spreads. So you've got one little section per year, the same date for 5 years on the left, and then on the right you've got a blank space here which you can use however you want. So what I decided to do at the beginning of the year, and I've been doing that all the way through, is writing 6 highlights of the day on the left, and I usually leave the top blank where you've got the year, but I'll show you in some cases I've been writing something in that as well. And then on the right side there's a problem which I discussed when I did my initial review of this planner, which is that you've got the quote at the bottom, and so the right hand page doesn't line up with the left hand. And I think that this is something that a lot of people felt was kind of a deal breaker maybe, or something that would put them off using it a little bit, because really, ideally, I would like it if the right hand page started here and this was blank at the top, and then you had it going all the way down to the bottom so that each side matched the other, if you see what I mean. So what I've decided to do instead is I counted out that if I put a heading here, this is my gratitude journal, and I wrote the heading at the top and then had a blank space and then wrote 5 things that I'm grateful for and then put a space in between, that would take me down to the bottom of the page and I'll have enough space for 5 years. So it doesn't exactly match up perfectly, but I think that it will work out more or less, and that's what I've been doing. So on the right I've just been counting out the spaces and writing in the 5 things, and then next year I'll come back, leave a space in between, and just write out another 5 things here, and so on until I get to the end. So what I really like about this is that it's not at all intimidating. So you can just, like what I usually do is at the end of the day I just write in a few different things that happened during the day. I try to make it, like I said, highlights of the day, nice things that happened, but I'm also conscious of the fact that I'm going to be coming back next year and in subsequent years and looking back at what happened, so I'm trying to make it something of just a general record of the day. So it's a mix of nice things that happened and memorable or noteworthy things that I think I'd like to be able to look back on later. So sometimes, like I mentioned, if a particularly noteworthy thing was going on that day, then I'll put a little heading at the top here, and there's space every year for you to put a little header right next to the year. So if it's just a normal everyday kind of day where nothing particular happens, then I leave it blank. But if I've gone somewhere, so for example, if I've been away, like here I was in California, so I wrote California at the top just to remind myself that it was something out of the ordinary. Or here, this was when I was on strike with my university, and so I wrote the day of the strike because it was a 14-day strike. So it was, you know, something kind of out of the ordinary. And then I just put in a, you know, combination of all of the different things that happened that I want to remember. Sometimes it's really you know, kind of unremarkable things, like I slept in late with the boys, that's my dogs, watched How to Get Away with Murder, had planning session with Mambi stickers, answered all my emails. So it might not be anything really dramatic, but just, you know, the things that come to me as I sit down to write this, which is at the end of the day before I go to bed. My 5-year techo cover, this one, came on this day. So this is the sort of thing that I think at the time it's not really that earth-shattering, but then I think looking back on it a year later or 5 years later, it would be kind of cool to be able to see, oh, this is the actual day when this arrived, because I wouldn't have a record of that otherwise. So because there aren't a huge number of lines, obviously this is not going to be an extensive record of my day, but I really like it because it's what I can handle. If I had to commit to filling a page, I just know that I wouldn't be able to do it. So this works really well. And then I'm grateful for here is also just a collection of, it might be specific things that happened just then, or it might be something that I'm just happy about in general that just come to my mind. And because I do it every day, I feel like I don't really have to put too much effort into thinking about special things. It, you know, it can be the same things repeated from one day to the next. Sometimes it's something unusual. It's just a mix, but hopefully looking back on it later, it will give me an idea of what I had on my mind and what the nice things were that I was thinking about at that time. So that's just how it works. That's all I do with it. It occurred to me after I'd started that it would have been nice, instead of writing the I'm grateful for here, to just choose a sticker that I felt like summed up that day, and then at the end of the 5 years I would have 5 different stickers on this side of the page, and that would be kind of like a nice compliment to the writing. But I didn't want to switch after I'd already started this because I want it to look uniform and I want the whole thing to have more or less the same, you know, overall format. And also I think that it would probably get quite lumpy because this is Tomoe River paper, so 5 years worth of stickers on every page might turn into something of a round spherical shape. I could maybe use the very thin see-through stickers, the plastic stickers from the value packs, which at the moment I'm using on my Hobonichi weeks, and they don't make it too bulky, so that might work, but I've decided not to do that for now anyway. Maybe in my next 5-year techo I will do that. But that's just how I'm using it, and it's working really well. And incredibly, it's now almost the end of April, so I've been doing this for nearly 4 months, and I have filled in every single day. And I think that the reason that I've done that is because I have the weight of responsibility on my head, knowing that I'm going to have to use this for 5 years, and I don't want to come back in year 3 and see a blank page here. Sometimes I filled it in the next morning. If I was just really tired and went to sleep without filling it in and I woke up in the morning and remembered, then I would just quickly fill it in. But I don't let another day go by because I think that's a slippery slope, and then I'll end up with big gaps and, you know, weeks of empty spaces. And I think the reason that I have managed to do this is because it's so manageable. It's really just a few lines here and a few lines here, and it takes like 5 minutes. So I think it is a system that works really well. And if you're like me and you feel like you don't have the time or the energy to commit to more in-depth journal or record keeping, then I think that this is a really nice option. So in terms of color, as you can see, this is really plain. I have no decorations, I'm just writing in it, and I want to keep it like that. But what I've decided to do is, at first I was thinking I would use one color ink for the first year and then switch to a different color ink for year 2, and then I would have 5 different ink colors, 1 per year. And then I decided that that wasn't enough and I'd like to be able to switch up the ink more often than that. So what I decided is I used the first color of ink, which was red. I actually think this is 2 slightly different shades of red here, but it looks more or less the same. So for the first bit more than 2 months, and then I switched to orange. So what I thought I would do is basically switch the ink every 2 months. So at the end of April, I'll switch to yellow, use yellow for 2 months, then use green, then use blue for 2 months, and then use purple for the last 2 months. And then I'll switch. So when I go back to January 1st, I'll use orange. And then when it gets to the orange here, I'll use yellow, and so on, so that I'll have like a cascading effect where every couple of months it will be a different color, but it will change so that throughout the 5 years, like I want it to be rainbedical, but here it will be yellow, green, blue, purple, and then here it will be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, if that makes sense. So that's my little color experiment that I'm thinking of doing. So it's quite modest, and it means I don't have to change the ink very often, but I think it will hopefully still create a nice effect when I look over it at the end of the 5 years. The other thing that has happened, which I was really upset about, is that I accidentally put this in my bag along with, it was on a plane with a tea filter, like loose leaf tea, and it got tea spilled on it, and I was really upset about that because I had managed to keep it immaculate up until then. But I'm trying to think of it more along the lines of, this is a record of my life, and green tea is a big part of my life, so this is just adding. It's kind of like, you know, putting ephemera in or something, which I'm not doing. But anyway, I had to do something to cheer myself up about the tea stain. So if it picks up other stains along the way, I'll just think of it in the same way. And I am using this Yes No pencil board from Hobonichi, which I really like. I think it's really cute, and I've got one of these in all the different sizes that I'm using in my various Hobonichis. So that's it. That's how I've been using this so far, and I think I'm just going to keep using it like this, and I'm determined to get through the 5 years, but I actually don't think that this will be difficult, like I said, because it's so manageable. It really isn't a challenge to keep it going. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will be back soon with another video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Bye!